Hello and welcome to Forex Edge. Let's take a couple minutes and talk about my favorite tool, the Forex Trend Meter charts. We'll start by opening up the dashboard. I spend probably 80% of my time watching this dashboard. This is a fairly new tool. It's only about 6 months old. We have data going back a little over a year, but this tool has been tweaked and it is extremely powerful. All of our tools work. They all do exactly what they're supposed to do, and I'm probably biased, but this is my favorite tool. I really like to use this tool to find trades. At a glance, you can kind of see everything is pretty self-explanatory. You've got the currency base, the overall value for that base, the aggregate value. You're going to hear that word aggregate a lot in this movie, and I'll explain why. You've got the currency cross, right? So the base is the one on the left side, the cross is on the right side. So the base is the pound, the cross is the yen for this pair, the base is the euro, and the cross is the USD for this pair. And then you've got the currency pair trend, so the overall pair paired together. And then you've got the absolute trend value for that currency pair as well. Now, it's only 4 sets of data, but you can get a lot of information from these 4 sets of data. Here's a good example. We've got the pound Aussie. Obviously, it's pushing to the downside. But for some reason, the pound is just sort of sitting there stuck. And if you look over here at the pound dollar, you can see that the pound on the pound dollar actually has a little momentum to the upside. And the pound on the pound yen actually has a little bit of momentum to the upside. And the pound on the pound Swiss has a little momentum to the upside. But the Aussie's overtaking it just a little bit, and the pound is a little weaker against the Aussie, but it's showing strength everywhere else. That's important information to have. And by the way, we inverted the values for the cross so that it makes more sense, so it's more intuitive. In other words, if the Swiss line is going up, that actually means that the Swiss is weakening. Because technically the Swiss line should be going down, because if the currency pair is going long, if the bias is pushing that currency pair long, that actually means that the Swiss is weakening. But we inverted the value for the cross on each currency pair to make this chart more intuitive and easy to read. Now let's talk about aggregate data. These are the different charts. Let's say we want to look at the Aussie yen. Actually, let's look at the pound Aussie and figure out why that's doing that. So we'll take a pound Aussie chart and let's do a 1 hour. We opened up a trend chart, and we've got all the different data sets here, except for the ABS. We do not have the absolute trend value on this. We don't need it. And I'll explain why, because we've got all the other data that we need. The difference between this and this is pretty obvious. This is one currency pair, and it has historical data. This has 17 currency pairs with no historical data. It just has the real-time value, just like all of our other dashboards. Speedometer dashboard, currency barometer dashboard, even our barometer histogram dashboard, same idea. Just real-time data, no historical data. Now, the data that's on our trend charts is aggregate data. A lot of people get confused. They say, well, I like to trade on the 2-minute chart or the 15-minute chart. The data is exactly the same on all of the charts. All of the data is aggregate trend value. The different time frames or intervals that we have, the 2-minute through the 12-hour, they're just zoom settings. So in other words, right now we're looking at a 60-minute chart for the pound Aussie. If we pull up a 45-minute chart for the pound Aussie, and we slide it over just a hair, once it loads, there we go. You can see that the real-time value for both charts is exactly the same. They have a little bit different shape because the intervals are broken up. These are 45-minute intervals, and these are 1-hour intervals. Does that make sense? Let me shrink this down, and then you can kind of move it out of the way. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. So you have to really get your head around this idea of aggregate data. Once you do, then it makes using this tool a lot easier. So we have the aggregate data for the trend of the pound Aussie going back. There's 100 intervals on this chart. So there's 100 hours of data on this chart. And you can see that for the most part, the pound Aussie has been kind of going sideways. It had a little bit of an uptrend, and now it's consolidating back to the downside. And now it was oversold at one point. The Aussie, at least, the cross on this currency pair was oversold at one point, and it made a small rally, and now it's starting to push down again. So let's look at the 12-hour and see if that helps us at all. So we pull up the 12-hour trend chart. It's a lot of data. It takes just a second to load. Once the data is there, you can kind of see what's going on. You can see that, well, it is making this big shift to the downside, but it's made even bigger shifts in the past. And you can kind of see what's going on here. And if we remove the technical data, or the paired data, you can see that we were forming sort of this choppy channel to the upside, but we broke out, and now we're starting to form lower lows. So what I would like to do now, just based on what I see here on the 12-hour chart, I would like to try to find a consolidation to the upside somewhere, and that's where the dashboard. I would actually like to see some of these currency pairs or some of these currencies overextended to the upside and then sell the pound Aussie. And if you pulled up a price chart, which I can't do in this movie, you would be able to see that the pound Aussie, for the most part, pull up a daily price chart, you'd be able to see for the last 100 days, it's been kind of going sideways, and then it started going higher and higher, and then it recently broke through support. You can tell that just by looking at this chart. And so what I want to do now is I want to catch a consolidation to the upside, and then I want to sell it. And that's the basic idea behind these. Again, very simple tool to use. There are a lot of members that like to get rid of the base and the trend, the base and the cross data completely, and just use this data. For some of the older members, this is actually the data from our Tech Scalper software. So if you're looking at this data, this is a Tech Scalper historical data, basically. So if you want a 5-minute Tech Scalper, it's a really old tool. If you're new, don't worry about what that means, because you've got access to the same data. You basically just open up a 5-minute trend chart and then turn off the cross and the base. And I've got a lot going on my computer right now. I apologize. Come on, base. There we go. And there's your Tech Scalper. So just food for thought for some of the older members. But these are my favorite tools because they're extremely accurate. And I say that about all of our tools, but in the fact that this is an aggregate value, you don't have to sit there and try to figure out, okay, is it overextended on this time frame or that time frame or what's going on? It's kind of like our trading tools. You know, when the line gets there, like on the Market Watch system, when the dark blue line gets into the red or the green, you've got to trade. And actually, we've almost got a trade right here on the Aussie yen. But remember, if you're watching this trade, keep an eye on that global trend value. You need secondary confirmation before you can enter this trade. So, got off topic, but the same idea. Once these levels get up here in the green or the red, you've pretty much got an instant buy or sell signal. You want to watch out for news and make sure that the news didn't push these currencies into those other areas, but that's the basic idea. So for me, this is it's kind of an all-inclusive system that I can catch trades, longer-term trades on the fly. And now that we've got the Market Watch system, I can use that now to sort of confirm. In other words, one of my favorite views is you take the Forex Trend Meter dashboard. Let's do this. I'll close all these others. So I take the Market Watch and I take the Forex Trend Meter dashboard and I go in between them. You can layer them if you want. You can make one long skinny one on the bottom and top. These are resizable. You can make them any size you want. But I just kind of switch between them. And if I see on the trend meter dashboard, if I see a potential trade, you can tell because they'll start pushing and say, hey, that looks like we're getting a lot of strength here in the Aussie yen and they're starting to get into the green area. So I might have a trade. And then you just switch over and yep, looks like we're starting to get a trade. But the information that the Market Watch gives us that we don't get from our trend meter dashboard is the fact that we need secondary confirmation from something before we can enter this trade. And so that secondary confirmation is going to come in the form of either the swing cycle or the ATR speed. So hopefully I didn't jump around too much for you, but I'm a little bit excited about this tool. So I like this tool. I think it's very powerful, so I hope you spend a little bit of time trying it at least and give it a fair shake before you just dismiss it outright. It really is one of our more popular and more powerful tools. Again, if you have any questions at all, please let us know, and we'll be happy to help. Thanks.